What's happening, party people? A new episode, Pasty-T Garage, coming at you. Today, we are working on the 1993 Nissan Skyline sedan. And what we're going to be doing is replacing the paint. Okay, sounds kind of weird, but we are replacing where the paint goes on the headlamp. Now, I'll show you exactly what I mean. So here's the driver's side headlamp. As you can see, this paint has deteriorated. It has a little bit of a, it just looks kind of crappy because it's old. And our friends over at Fitmint Automotive came up with this really nice vinyl overlay. I'm not going to call it a sticker, but it kind of is a sticker. It's more like a film. It's more like if you're adding tint, if you're adding some sort of paint protection. It's that kind of stuff where it's a movable vinyl piece that you can put on top of the area that you want it to go to, and it will dry and basically cure in place so that it provides, protection, aesthetics, all that kind of stuff for where the old paint used to be. Now, this is the passenger side headlamp. As you can see, I've already replaced it. More or less just because I wanted to know how to do it without being, nervous about being on camera. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not a body person. I am not do some sort of extremely intricate type of Bondo or paint or sanding or anything like that. I'm not that good, and I'm not that patient for that type of work. I let professionals do that. What I'm good at is replacing mechanical parts, diagnosing stuff, fixing oil leaks, that kind of thing. This was really, really intimidating to me, but I, toot over here, I think it turned out well. I'm very, very happy with the results of this side. So what I'm going to be walking through you today is the driver's side, which is right here. Now, Fitmint Automotive, as you can see in this mess over here, they have really nice instructions, basically walk you through the entire process. If you have a GTR, which this is not, they recommend you remove the front grille, which would normally sit right here. And that's just so you can get access to these sections, so you're not fighting that to get in and out of the way, because this vinyl does require a little bit of effort to get it to sit correctly, massage all the bubbles out, more or less just get it to where it will sit perfectly and cure, because they do recommend it cure for 24 hours. I think before you go drive the car, have a lot of air go through, which is fine. It's going to sit for a day or two before I go drive it anyways, but I wanted to get this done. It's a part that I've had for a little while, so I'm really, really happy to install it. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and go through and do the driver's side. Now, one thing that I would highly recommend is having a fresh, sharp razor blade. And the reason I say that is because their instructions recommend that you at least buffer the edge of the paint so that that doesn't show through the vinyl. Vinyl's not very thick. Here it is on the supplied piece of, I guess, wax paper that they provided. And they also provide some 800 grit sandpaper, and that's really to get in and get it down. But I'll walk you through a little bit right here. If you have a really sharp razor blade, you can just kind of follow the edge and push up against it, and you can see the paint flaking off. So that's kind of what I did on the passenger side, is I just walked it around, chipped the paint off like that, sprayed it down a couple times, sprayed it with some air, just to get all the paint off. So yeah, we're gonna do that today, so stay tuned. So we're gonna be removing the bulk of the paint with the razor blade. And as you can see, I'm just walking it towards the engine bay. I'm running the razor blade as I don't know, as perpendicular to the surface as I can, or as parallel, I should say. This is perpendicular. So I'm running it parallel, and I'm basically just letting the blade do all the work as I kind of just walk it back and forth. And you can see it's doing a pretty good job. I'm not forcing it. Even if we scratch the housing a little bit, you can see that the new vinyl overlay will cover that up. But I also don't want to damage anything, and I don't want to gouge the surface. We're not trying to break the headlamp. If you've ever seen, these headlamps are not cheap. This isn't an N1 style headlamp, thank goodness, because those are just dumb expensive. But anything Skyline related is expensive, and so I'd like to preserve as much of it as possible. Now, another thing is I have a separate light just to help me see what I'm doing. More light's better than less light. But yeah, we're just walking this up. So as you can see, most of it's done on this area. We need to focus more on this side, but it's not really taking me too long to get this done. So with a little patience and some technique, it doesn't take very long to get the paint off. We're gonna go ahead and clean the surface after it's done with some soapy water, wipe it down with this towel, and then we're gonna go ahead and lay the new piece on. But we're gonna get the rest of the paint off first. Go ahead and wipe it down. I'm gonna spray some soapy water on it. Wipe it down again. Now you may find at this point that you want to leave it like this, because it actually doesn't look that bad. The headlight housing is glass, which is super nice, and it really doesn't look that bad. I'm gonna go ahead and show a comparison. So this would be without paint, and this would be with the entire new vinyl overlay added. I like this better. I think it just looks cleaner. It makes the housing look sleek. So we're already halfway done, so we're gonna install the new one. Now, this comes on a piece of wax paper. It's a little sticky on the back side. What they recommend is spraying a little bit of water, soapy water, on the surface that you're gonna be mounting it to. And all that does is allow you to be able to shift this piece before it dries. Because once it dries and it gets sticky, it's gonna be very, very hard to move and manipulate. So I'm gonna peel up the edge all the way across. It's gonna be a little sticky from static electricity. And basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one edge and I'm gonna make sure that that's all the way down, and then I'm gonna walk it through the other side. That seemed to be a good way for me to get it, because one of the pieces of the instructions does say that you might have to trim a little bit. So I'm going to make sure that I have it all the way on. Have it on this side. It may take a little while for you to get the exact placement down, and that's fine because you have the soapy water. As you can see, it just moves a little bit easier with that, because then you're going to push out all the bubbles. Now I will say don't push too hard, because as you can see it shifts pretty easily, and it will continue to shift until it's dry. So you're going to want to kind of hold one side of it. Like once you know, like let's say I'm happy with where it's sitting right here, right? So I'm gonna keep that there. And then basically I'm gonna take the towel and I'm gonna wipe up excessive water, because we want it to dry now. Now that we're pretty happy and comfortable with where it's sitting, we're gonna wanna get that excess water that's underneath out, kind of dry. But as you can see, it still shifts a little bit, but it's much easier to manipulate and kind of get where you want it to go. And it will dry. So we have a bubble there, so we're just gonna pull it down. And the bubbles around this little hump are the hardest. They're not impossible to get out though. And I don't know if it's just the material's really good, because as you can see, I'm just walking it with my hand around to kind of get the bubbles out. So pull a little bit this way, so we can meet that edge. So I'm just wiping it. And when it gets really wet, I'm just gonna get the towel, wipe it down. I'm not pressing really hard. And when I'm moving it this way, I'm making sure that I hold down on this side so that it's not moving the entire piece. And it's gonna take a minute, a couple minutes for you to get it really all the bubbles out. The part that I found toughest on the other side was the edges. The edges did not want to stick very well, and I think it's just because you're at the end, you know, you have the most moisture that's accumulated right there. It's hard to really like press that out. So we're almost done with that. I'm gonna go ahead and start working on this side down here towards the center of the grill. I'm gonna move the camera. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm just trying to squeeze whatever bubbles / water is on the inside down. Got a little bit of excess paint down there. Just spray a little bit of this really light air. Yeah, you can see it's still a little wet, so it's easy for it to pop up. And then what they do recommend is you take like your finger, and you walk the edge, and you just kind of press down, because you're trying to squeegee that water out. And I'm going to take the towel and walk the edge too, so that if a little bit of moisture does come out, the towel will pick it up. Pretty happy with this side. So there's a little bit extra right here. I may trim that a little bit just to make sure that it sits flush. They did say that some trimming might be required, and I think it's mainly just on the edges because you have a little bit more light. You have the edge that's not sitting flush. Like this one's sitting pretty flush. I feel like that's pretty good. And I'm just, now that it's dried a little bit, just offering a little bit more pressure to get all the bubbles out. So yeah, so this edge I need to trim a little bit. So we have a pretty sharp X-Acto knife. And all I'm gonna do is trim just a little bit up here, so that it can seal much better. So now that I trimmed that little piece, and you can see it was just barely a little bit. And that's so that I can get all the rest of the moisture out. Let me get my finger on this, just press it. Off my thumb. Little bit of a bubble there. So I'm gonna trim a little bit more. This is where having a like a focal light is helpful. You can see where the bubble is. I'm gonna trim a little bit more right here. I'm not fighting a bubble to get that out. After 24 hours of it curing, I'm going to come back there and just make sure that the edges aren't going to peel, because the last thing I want is a little bit of moisture getting in here and just ripping the whole thing up. These weren't expensive, but I really don't want to do this again, especially if it's something that was like an installation error. All right, we're just going to double check our edges, make sure that I don't have any bubbles that have popped up, like that crease that I just made. So now I'm just forcefully, let it dry it a little bit more, walking around the contour of the headlamp just to make sure that it's pressed in firmly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As you can see, now we've got it all the way installed, and our driver's side matches the passenger side. I'll go ahead and pull it back out so you can see both. I'm pretty happy with that. We're gonna go ahead and close the hood a little bit just so y'all can see what it will look like with the hood closed. Yeah, as you can tell, the hood's not always shut, but it just gives it a much more sleek profile now that that black vinyl's in there, as opposed to it just being, you know, this, you know, non-colored area. So yeah, that's the install. Not terrible. Like I said earlier, I'm not a body person. I don't do anything with body work or window tinting or, you know, the protective paint film, you know, the PPF coating or anything like that. That kind of stuff scares me. So this was definitely a uncomfortable experience at first, but I was able to get through it. And hopefully with the instructions that Fitmint Automotive provides, and with a little bit of the tips that I could help out with, having just now done this, you too can do this on your R32 Skyline. I don't know if they make these for other Skylines. The headlamps in later models may not have the same sort of you know, paint chipping, or they might not have any paint on them at all. I'm not sure, but I will drop the link to this product in the description so that if you have an R32 Skyline, you can do this as well. Works on all headlamps. Believe they're all the same. Doesn't matter if it's sedan, coupe, GTR, they're all the same. So yeah. So thanks everybody for joining me. If you're new to this channel, I'd appreciate if you went on this journey with me together. Go ahead and hit that sub button if you enjoyed the content. If you liked it, like that. And yeah, drop a comment below if you learned something from this video. But yeah, that's going to do it for me today. So see you next video.